Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Mr. Oh My Lewis back at you with another video. And in today's video we're going to be talking about how it's okay for you to lose yourself in whatever process that you're currently involved in. So this may be work, this may be your passion, this may be a project, whatever it may be. It's okay for you to immerse yourself and really lose yourself in that process 100%, and how it's actually a good idea that you do that, as opposed to most people who don't tend to lose themselves in there and they sort of do everything as a hobby and stuff like that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with today's video. But before we do, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification icon, and make sure you hit the like button if you really like this video. And of course, if you have any comments, make sure you leave them down below. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So how do you actually lose yourself? So first of all, let's just talk about the mindset of losing yourself. So when you lose yourself in something, let's just say like right now I'm making a video, so my goal is to lose myself in this video and really get focused and really deliver the most amount of value that I possibly can in the next 20 minutes. You may be trying to do this with, who knows, maybe you have a project that you're doing currently. Maybe you want to become a better writer, like I always say. So as a better writer, you might immerse yourself in your writing. So you start to write, you get the pen, paper, or you go on the computer, you open up your word processor, depending on how you decide to write, and you start to write. You start to put your ideas together and stuff like that, and you excuse me, and you really start to get immersed into the craft, and you really start to write, and you write and you write, and all of a sudden you start to forget about the outside world. It stops to exist for a little bit. And so that's really a very not an easy place to get to be honest, because see, a lot of people would like to get to this position, but not a lot of people do. And here's why. First of all, introverts by nature can actually tap into this place a whole lot more easier than extroverts can, just because we tend to be more analytical, we tend to be more in our heads. So when it comes to actually doing a project, such as writing, or maybe you're reading a book, or maybe you're writing a book, who knows, or maybe you're working on music and stuff like that, it's very easy for us to just focus on that craft and focus on getting that done, and making sure those steps are getting done as good as possible, but as opposed to an extrovert, an extrovert is more of a social person, a person that's really more out there and that has to socialize and be around people and stuff like that. And they're always very inviting. They're always like out there in the world. They're always interacting with the world, as opposed to an introvert, which is more like, in the zone, more in their heads, more in their what's going on in there, as opposed to what's going on out there. So what's going on in here has more priority than what's going on out there. And so there's nothing wrong with any of these. This is just something that introverts have and that extroverts have. But like I said, introverts just tend to have this a little bit easier, and so as opposed to extroverts. And so, well, here's the thing, first of all, how do you actually tap into such a place, where you have that diligence, that opportunity really to tap into your mind, where everything just sort of disappears and just lose yourself. So I actually made a video previously on my channel here, which you can still find it. It's called how to tap into your dark side. And in that video I sort of spoke about how you're supposed to find your passion, and once you find it, you go all in and you really immerse yourself to such a degree where you become a very dangerous person in that section, in that sector, whatever it is that you pick to do. So maybe writing, so you decide to be a beast writer, so you get in there and you start to write, and you write so much that you become so good, to the degree that you become scary good. You become dangerously good, meaning that nobody will dare to really go up against you when it comes to writing, because you're just that good. And so this video right here, and this concept of losing yourself in the craft, is very similar to that one, except that in this one we're gonna go more into this is more like the beginning stage, really. Actually, the dark side, tapping into the dark side, is really the finale there, if you will. That's really the place that you want to get to, but in this video, this is just taking a step back from that and actually just finding your passion. So that's really what this is all about. So if you want to lose yourself in something, in a craft, you first have to find your passion. you first have to find something that you really, really love, something that really catches your interest and that you're willing to do it for free. So these type of things tend to be like your hobbies, your side hustles, or stuff like that. Stuff that you do on the side. Not really doesn't have to necessarily be your job, or doesn't necessarily have to be school. If you're going to school, like one of your subjects, it doesn't necessarily have to be that. Yeah, and it usually isn't, because those things are more forced. You go to work, you're sort of forced to do what you have to do there. You go to school, you're sort of forced to do what you have to do there. You go to college, university, you're sort of forced to do whatever it is that you're doing there, unless of course this is actually your passion. When it comes to like college and university, then it's like the opposite. But if you still don't know what you're doing there, then it probably feels forced to some degree, right? And so tapping into that place where you're just immersed, you're just focused, it requires for you to find something that you really love and that you're willing to do for free, and something that you would just do naturally, and that you would do without anybody actually going in there and telling you like, hey, you know what, you got to do this, you got to do this thing, you got to do that thing, without needing somebody to supervise you in order to do that thing. So once you found something like that, then that's when you actually know that this has potential in order for you to be able to immerse yourself into it. So let's just take the classic example of writing. So let's just say you've been trying a couple things, and this is something that you might have to do also, if as an introvert or as an extrovert, even though my channel is mostly for introverts, but regardless, this is something you're gonna have to do. Like, who knows, possibly you're watching this video, you still haven't found something that you're really passionate about, like 100%. So, and the thing is that it's very hard to actually find it, even as introverts. It's extremely hard, and especially when you're younger as well. So like, I'll make a separate video on how to find your purpose and how to nail down one specific thing. But in this video, just understand that you have to actually find a one thing, that you can really focus on and really go hard and really, put in all your resources into that one thing in order to be able to tap into that, or at least have the opportunity, have the potential to really tap into that zone where you start to lose yourself. So yeah, so you have to find that. As for me, like that's something that I've experienced many times, and the thing is that it's really good, but you really have to go through a lot of things, like I had to go through a lot of things in order to find out that I actually love to make videos and stuff like that. And same thing for writing, same thing for music, same thing for marketing, and same thing for the other things that I do. So it takes a little bit of experimentation, especially like I said, if you're young, but yeah, you're gonna have to just go out there and try things until you find like that one thing that you really, really, really feel passionate about. And here's the thing, that one thing that you find, it may not be the final thing, it might not be the thing that you want to pursue for the rest of your life, but you have to find something that actually passionates you at the moment, of course. So like, pick whatever first thing that you find, and then you commit to that one thing. Of course, like I said, you can always drop it. This isn't something that's going to be permanent and like, all right, you're going to pick the one thing and this is it for life. No, not at all. That is not the case. So just keep that in mind. So you can always go back and change it. But here's the thing, just pick one thing, just so that you're able to feel this for yourself and really experiment and feel the process of going through this. So once you found something that's really passionate, something that you really love, and that's really catching your attention, and you want to do it, and you're very enthusiastic, you're very motivated to do it, then that's when you actually go and you actually try that. Now, who knows? Maybe you already found something and you're watching this video. Then in that case, just go to that one thing that you already know that you're passionate about and go and do it, right? So here's the thing, like, once you're actually doing, the way to tap in to yourself and really get to that point where you start to lose yourself, in order to get there, you have to challenge yourself. But here's the thing. When you challenge yourself, make sure that challenge is in congruence to your skill level. Because here's the thing, like, you cannot tap into that place where you're immersed, where you're just in the zone, where everything around you disappears, if you're not performing at the level that is challenging and that's exciting, but at the same time that it's not too easy. So here's what I'm trying to say here. So perhaps you might have already pursued some of the things that you're already doing. You know, let's just say, for example, writing, like we said, right? So you're writing, right? And so who knows, maybe you started off at some time, you know, now that I've explained what this is, maybe back in the day, you know, you were doing some writing and you were in the zone, you were in that place where you were losing yourself, but then something happened and eventually, you know, you just kind of don't feel that way anymore. Or who knows, maybe you just started off writing because I told you in this video to start something, and you realize that you still can't get in that zone. Like you feel like you just can't immerse yourself. You're constantly getting distracted. There's constantly thoughts going through your head, and then you feel like going and doing something else, and you feel like kind of abandoning this and stuff like that, and you don't feel like finishing your writings and stuff like that. And sometimes it may be brutal. You're like pushing yourself, like, oh my god, I gotta get this done and stuff like that, and laziness starts to creep in, and then it's just like a whole mess, right? So what happens then? So the reason why this even happens in the first place, let's go ahead and explain and break that down. So when you're going through such a phase right here, what that means is that your skill level is not congruent to the challenge that you've put for yourself. So let's just say you're starting off, and all of a sudden you start to feel lazy, you start to feel procrastination, you start to feel like you don't want to do this, and then you start to feel like, maybe I made a mistake and stuff like that. You start to regret your decision for picking this as your passion. What's going on right there is that you've actually done either one of two things, and possibly at the beginning you've probably made the mistake of challenging yourself too much. So the challenge that you put for yourself was too high that it's pretty much unattainable. So let's just say you're just starting off writing, right? And you put for yourself, all right, so today I want to write a blog, right? I want to write a blog, and I need this blog to be, I don't know, maybe like 5-6 pages long, right? I need this blog to be 6 pages long, and this blog has to be like very good, like it has to be very well formatted, and it has to be this way, right? I have to cover these points and these points and these points, and then everything, right? And you've never written a blog before. And you're already putting yourself such a challenge, right? The blog has to be like really good. It has to be visually good. You know, you have to keep the reader very, very hooked onto the blog. You know, if the reader's not being hooked, then you're making a mistake and this blog is worthless and stuff like that, and you're just gonna throw it out, right? So this is already bad because you're already putting yourself a very massive challenge that is very hard to attain for somebody who's never written a blog. You know, sure, like somebody like me who's written a lot already. You know, I've written books, I've written blogs, I've written music. You know, I've written like a lot of stuff containing words and stuff. You know, I've done copywriting as well. You know, for someone like me, sure, you know, you tell me to write a blog about this and that. Actually, I would probably get in the zone most likely, you know, depending on how complex, you know, you want the blog to be and where it's going and stuff like that. But like for somebody who's just starting off, that's quite of a challenge, and that's a very high challenge, you know, as opposed to like, you know, for me, I have experience. So yes, you know, in that case, it might make more sense for me to do that. But like for someone like you who's just starting off, this is way too out of your getting the zone range, you know, where you can lose yourself, because there is nothing for you to lose yourself. This is very frustrating to put yourself a challenge this big right from the start. So if you want to, as a beginner, you want to get yourself in the zone, then you're gonna have to bring that down and just make it very simple. So, you know, if you're writing a blog, then just put yourself to just write a 1-page blog. Really easy, you know, just finish a 1-page blog. It doesn't have to be written really nicely and stuff like that, but just get the blog done. Get that blog done. You know, write whatever it is that you want to write. You know, forget about the template, forget about structuring the blog properly in order to hit a certain amount of points and stuff. Forget about hooking the reader. Just write whatever it is that you want to write, you know. And that in of itself, that will change the way you see writing in a whole different way. And that will most likely get you into the lose yourself area. Now, if you've been doing this for a little while, let's just say you're kind of like me, you've been writing for a couple of years now, or who knows, maybe you've been writing for a couple of months, maybe a year or two or something like that, and you already have some sort of experience with writing, right? Let's just say you're writing blogs, of course, so you've been writing blogs for a little while, and then all of a sudden you just notice that, hey, like I'm not losing myself in these blogs anymore. I'm not really feeling them anymore as I used to in the past. And so what do you do then? So most likely right there what you did is that you're starting to lower the bar, or at least you haven't moved up the bar. So perhaps when you started off, who knows, you set yourself, I'm going to write a one-page blog, then maybe you said 2, then maybe you said 3, and you were doing this properly. You were slowly increasing, the number of the complexity of that blog, what you required from yourself. You're raising your standards. But all of a sudden you came to a point where you just stopped doing that, and you just sort of stayed in one place where you're like, all right, maybe the 6-page blog, and it's gonna have this, and you're sort of like doing the same thing now. And you've been doing the same thing for a while, so guess what? You just created a comfort zone for yourself, and at the same time you've created simplicity, and now the challenge of writing that blog isn't there anymore. It's gone. It's gone because you've done that same blog many times to such a degree that you've probably already perfected it, so there's really nowhere else to go. Like, that's it, you've capped out. And so in that case, what you have to do is you have to raise the bar, because now the bar is too small for you. It's too little to the degree that it's boring you. It really is. It's getting you to a place of boredom. It's getting you in a place of comfort. It's getting you in a place where you're not constantly needing to challenge yourself. You're not really needing to push your writing skills to the next level anymore, because there is nothing to push yourself for. You've been writing the same thing. You already know what you're doing. You're in a comfortable area. And so that's really what you have to do there. So here's the thing. Ultimately, like, whatever place you are, you have to analyze. You have to see, okay, like how big of a challenge am I putting myself? Is this too hard or is this too easy? So you have to measure that out every single time you're about to go and do that activity, and you have to be very, very honest with yourself, because sometimes as a beginner we like to really challenge ourselves, and we're like, no, I gotta get that big thing, I gotta go all out and go big. You hear this all the time. You gotta go big, really big and stuff. Well, guess what? If you're aiming so big you can't even achieve it, then what the fuck? Like, that's just you poor strategizing. That's poor strategy there. That's just you strategizing very emotionally. It's not logical. Like, logically, like, how are you supposed to get there? It's going to take you possibly years. And if that's your only goal there, to reach and go that high, then it's going to take you a lot of years in order to see something happen. And like, no, you got to set yourself little small goals in order for you to get to that one, whatever your dream is. Sure, your purpose, your ultimate vision can be really big, but that should not be your goal. That's why you put goals along the way, and you hit those goals in order to get to that vision. Because that vision is so big that you just can't have it from one day to another. But sure, you can achieve a little small goal from one day to another. That's very simple. Like, let's just say your small goal, your first goal as a beginner is to just write a blog, a simple one-page blog, in which you just express yourself. It has no structure, no nothing. You just write a blog that's one page. That's attainable. That's something that you can do in one day, possibly in a few hours. And so that's something that's attainable. So that's what you want to go after. And then little by little you start to amp that up. All right, you did 1, now let's do 2, now let's do 3. Maybe you get to a point where you do 6, right? So you do 6 and it's still no structure. You're just writing, 6. You're trying to just push out more content. You're trying to push out more writing. And so this makes you a little bit more of a, you can come up with more content on the fly, as opposed to, getting stuck somewhere in one page and not having more content to make a second page. And so, like, that's how you really push yourself. So then you write a 6th page, with content, and then who knows, maybe later you start to actually add some structure. All right, let's work on the hook now. Let's work on the first page there, the headline. Maybe you want to work on the first paragraph of that blog, in order to keep the reader going and stuff. And maybe later you want to break down the blog, instead of just being like plain out writing, you want to actually hit some points, and maybe later you want to add some images that go along with those points and stuff like that. And you can always, make that blog very complex. Maybe later you can add some links that go to maybe to some landing pages, or whatever the goal of the blog is. Maybe you want to link people to a video that you've made, or a tutorial, or a product, or something like that, and so later you can go ahead and structure those, and then maybe later you can add like social media icons so that people can share your blog on social media and stuff like that. And who knows, and maybe later you start to switch up the type of writing that you're doing, and maybe you start writing blogs for different reasons. Maybe at first you just started off writing blogs because you wanted to educate people. Then maybe you can go on to writing blogs about wanting to sell something to someone, or maybe you want people to do something with that blog. Maybe you want them to actually go and click a video. You want to get more views in that video, so you create a blog around it. That way, people go. You could take the audience that you have that are of the people who are currently reading your blog, and you can take them to go and watch that video. And so there's many possibilities you can do with the blog, but you have to constantly be pushing yourself, and of course you constantly have to be creative with this. And the only way to be creative really is to really love the thing. That's why it's so important that you actually love this thing, because if not, you won't put the energy to be creative and actually push yourself to do something to do something new, and to do something that's more innovative and that's different and more complex. So definitely keep that in mind all the time, and so that was really like the beginner phase. And of course, given the fact that you have some experience, don't put yourself very easy and little simple goals. And because at that point, it's going to be very boring, and you're just going to be able to accomplish and hit those goals very, very easily. And there is nothing that's pushing you. So it has to be congruent to your skill level. So make sure that you're pushing yourself, but that you're not pushing yourself to such a degree where it's out of reach. Or don't push yourself to the point where you're not pushing yourself at all. What you're really doing is just keeping yourself in comfort. So don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself that you're actually pushing yourself, because you know perfectly deep down if you can do more. You know it. Like you can lie to everybody else around you, but you can't lie to yourself. You know that you have the potential to do more, and if you're not doing more, then don't expect to be able to get into that lose yourself mentality, that mindset of being able to lose yourself in the craft, because you're not properly strategizing your challenges. So I hope this video was extremely helpful. I know it went a little bit long, and it was very, very analytical, so I broke down a lot of things. So feel free to go back and actually watch this video over and over again. And especially, if you're just starting off and you've never done this before, then you're definitely going to want to go and replay this video. That way you understand what you have to do when you're just starting off, and how you're supposed to progress and stuff like that. And make sure you challenge yourself properly. And yeah, that's really how you get into that zone where you start to lose yourself, and you start to and everything around you starts to disappear. Like I said, as introverts, you might have experienced this back in the day, or who knows, maybe you experience this now. Is it something that's bad? Of course not. This is something that's amazing. This is something you actually want to pursue, because it's the most amazing feeling. It's almost like meditating and stuff, but you're not actually meditating. You're getting some work done. So that's good. All right. So hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, like I said. And make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the notification icon. And of course, there's going to be more videos here and here, so you guys can watch more of my content. In the meantime, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys in the next video.